From LateNighter.com, it's Inside Late Night with Mark Malkoff.
Hey everybody, John Schneider back here from LateNighter, setting you up for today's season finale of Inside Late Night with Mark Malkoff, where Mark sits down with former Late Night with Seth Meyers writer Karen Chee to talk to her about her career in comedy. We are so proud of all of the interviews that Mark has conducted this fall, and we're very excited to bring some more to you in 2026. So of course we will be back then, but for now, enjoy Mark's conversation with Karen Chee.
Karen Chee, thanks for talking with us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I can't believe that you are so young and loved Johnny Carson and got raised on Johnny Carson from your grandfather. You know, I wrote a book about Johnny Carson that's currently out, plug, and it just came out. And there's just, it's hard. People under, I'd say 40 maybe don't know who that is or they've heard his name. But you were watching clips with your grandfather and watching Carson and Rickles.
I was, yeah. My grandpa and I are really close, and yeah, he was a big Johnny Carson fan to the point that when he started showing me Johnny Carson, I realized a lot of his mannerisms when he speaks English. My grandpa primarily speaks Korean, but when he spoke in English, it was like almost a Johnny Carson kind of affectation where he sometimes will pronounce the H in words like white or something. And then,
yes.
So when I first started watching like clips of The Tonight Show, I was sort of like, oh, that guy's doing an impression of my grandpa.
Did you have any clips of Carson that you really particularly like that stand out? I know that you liked watching with Rickles. If not, no worries.
I loved watching him with Rickles. I remember watching a special that was like called Johnny Goes Home, I think.
Yes.
Where he goes
that was the
back
early
to,
80s.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that is like a very standout memory because I think he also talked about how he used to do, wow, I haven't thought about this in so long. He used to do a lot of magic as a kid, and that was like his first performance and stuff. But I thought it was so cool. I was, truly such a fan.
And then suddenly you're working in the same building Johnny worked at when he started The Tonight Show. So you're
Bonkers.
23, I believe. This is 2019. You got hired, right? At Late Night with Seth Meyers. How did you get hired? Did you do a packet? Did they find out about you? I know you were performing and you were kind of a star in college and on the comedy scene, and you were writing pieces in the New Yorker. How did they find out about you?
I just want to quickly say I'm so impressed by the level of research you've done.
Oh.
No one has ever known about me having watched Johnny Carson already and like led with that, so I'm very impressed. I'm trying to remember. Okay, I had been submitting packets to other late night shows, and Late Night with Seth Meyers was famously never hiring new writers because it was like a good work environment, so none of their writers left. So there was never a spot that was opening. But I had just submitted to a couple other late night shows, so I remember having packets that were quite fresh, if that makes sense, and then met a few of the Seth writers at the Golden Globes in January of 2019. And they were kind of like, oh, they were so sweet. This is truly them being so generous. They went back to Late Night and told the EPs that they met a writer who is kind of in the mix of potentially going to a different late night show. You guys should meet with her. But one of the best and kindest things they did is they didn't tell me that. And so when I went in to meet with the people at Late Night with Seth Meyers, I wasn't nervous at all because I didn't know it was a job interview. And so I think I came across like really ballsy and like, oh, this kid doesn't think she needs this kind of a thing, which is absolutely not the energy I would have had if I had known it was a job interview.
What a gift. Did you sit down with Alex Bays and Mike Shoemaker? Is that who you met with initially?
It was Alex Bays and Mike Shoemaker, who I had obviously heard of and read their name in the credits of so many things, you know, and I was like, only nervous in the way of like, oh, I'm meeting these people for the first time, but I didn't have the feeling I need to impress them. So I think I don't remember what it was, but I remember like accidentally maybe even teasing Alex Bays about something, which is crazy. And then a few minutes later, I remember like Seth walked in. And so I was talking with all three of them and being like, I was enjoying it because I was like, this is never going to happen to me in my life again. I'm never going to be in a room with these three people. I might as well have a nice chat and then go my own way.
That detachment, Bill Murray talks about just being detached and in the moment and being
Yeah.
loose. It's hard sometimes to get there, but the fact that you got there. So did you get that meeting and get hired just based on working at the Globes and they were impressed, or did you have to hand in a packet?
I handed in those 2 packets that I had just written for the other ones.
For the other ones. Okay.
Yeah, and then I think they had also done their research of kind of finding stuff that I was writing for like the New Yorker or McSweeney's and stuff. So they had kind of done things. And then I was like, I have 2 packets written for other shows. Obviously the voices are different because the hosts are different, but like those were 2 very different hosts. And so I was like, just to prove that if I can do those 2. But I really think they were kind of taking a huge leap of faith of, hopefully this will work out. Every single person in that interaction for that equation to have worked out, I think was taking a huge chance and being very generous.
It's unbelievable how proactive you were in terms of the Golden Globes. I don't know anyone else that got hired to write the Globes based on just tweeting it at someone. What were your expectations? I mean, this was Sandra Oh and I believe Andy Samberg. They were
Yeah.
hosting together, correct? On the Golden Globes.
They were hosting together, yeah.
What were your expectations, if any, when you tweeted that you wanted to write for the Globes?
I don't think I had any expectations. I don't even know quite why I did. When I think about it now, I'm like, I would never do that now. That feels so embarrassing to put yourself out there so baldly. But it maybe was just that I was 23 and thought like, no one's going to see this, might as well. But then there was a person I was following on Twitter who was so kind and used to work with Andy Samberg. And I want to give her credit, but I also don't know if she wants me to like blow up her spot. But she very kindly saw my tweet, and I had also been posting a lot of like jokes every day and then the like online stuff I was talking about and like stand-up things. And so I think she had sort of known of me about that. And then when I saw it was like, hey, I know Andy, let me reach out and see if they're hiring. And so again, like, I don't know if it was Andy or if it was his team or somebody else, again, took a huge, very, very generous, chance on me. And I was so grateful.
Was that intimidating? 17 writers, all, I mean, you fit in, obviously, but just the fact that you were younger and didn't have maybe as much experience as most of them, was that,
Totally.
How was that experience, the
Oh
Globe?
my gosh.
Yeah.
I wish I remembered better. I mean, I feel I have such a bad memory, and this was 2019, so I'm trying to remember. It was like, I definitely was so intimidated. I had never done anything in that style before. So I'm trying to remember, but I think the summer or the year prior to that, I was working as a writer's assistant. So I kind of knew how a writer's room operated, but it wasn't in the style of a variety show. And I do remember there being moments where they would ask for the writer's assistant and I would like react. Like I thought it was me. But
no.
Yeah, I was meeting almost all of the writers for the first time, I think. But everyone was so nice. It was really cool to have my first job be with people who all knew what they were doing and really on top of it, but also very like polite and friendly. And so, yeah, I remember it being really fun, but also being so in over my head. And again, thinking like, this is the last cool thing that's ever going to happen to me. I might as well really enjoy it.
Only good things happen. Where were you a writer's assistant previously?
I was a writer's assistant for a show that ended up not getting picked up, which was the Reductress pilot. I don't know if it had a name beyond that, but it was a show that was getting developed at Comedy Central in New York.
Okay. So your first day at Seth Meyers, or one of your first days, I think this is so funny. You're a huge fan of 30 Rock, Tina Fey, Robert Carlock. It's a great show. So you love that TV show. You walk into the actual 30 Rock, and then you see a cast member from 30 Rock in 30 Rock. And that kind of like you were doing a double take.
Yeah, it's so true. I was a huge fan of John Lutz. I still am. And he was a writer at the show. And on 30 Rock, the show, he played Lutz, named after himself. And so then seeing him and him being like, hi, I'm Lutz, which is what everybody called him at the show. I think I was very starstruck by him, but he's so nice and like so kind and very welcoming that I very quickly was like, oh, this is just a nice, normal man, not a weirdo as portrayed on the TV show.
You did an interview. You said it took you about 6 months to get good. What were those 6 months like? Were you doubting yourself? Was it intimidating? Did you have faith in yourself? Because you were writing jokes previously. You thought you were writing a lot of jokes, and then you realized, I need to be writing way more than this.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I feel like you're remembering this better than I am.
It's a long time ago.
I think I know anything before COVID has like left my brain.
Sure.
Yeah, I do remember it taking a really long time to feel like I was on top of things there. And I I don't know if I ever actually got good or on top of things, but compared to when I started, I do think about 6 months in, I was like, oh, I feel the routine of it without having to double check what the schedule is or double check, have I done enough? Is this good enough? And I think maybe at 6 months in, I had a good sense of like, what is a premise that, would potentially make it all the way on the show versus a premise that I think is funny that might not be a fit, I guess. But I don't know, everybody at the show, kind of true to its reputation, was so like friendly and sweet and very welcoming.
It starts at the top. Shoemakers is such a nice guy, and
such a nice guy.
Seth, that's such
Yeah.
a bonus to have. I was gonna ask. You did an interview. You mentioned that. I mean, you write in bulk, joke wise, and you said that if you're lucky, you get 1 to 3 jokes maybe in the show. Is that about right?
Yeah, I think that's about right. Yeah. And then I think if you get like 2 jokes on, I don't know if this is true for other people. I feel like for me, I was like, oh my gosh, I did a tremendous job today. But I do think that was true for most of the writers. Yeah.
So many good writers. Can you talk about Alex Bays a bit? Because Seth Meyers called him the best joke writer in America. And I got to interview Bays, and it's like, it was unbelievable. He didn't know how to write a topical joke, and he kept submitting to Saturday Night Live to update for the 2 years, did not get anything into updating, just kept doing it and writing, and eventually, years later got hired and became so powerful as a joke writer. But what was that like? What did you take anything away from him learning wise from
Oh
him?
man, that's such a good question. He is truly, I mean, I fully agree with Seth on that. He's so funny. And he's got such a good sense of what is ripe, what is like ripe for comedy, like what area might be good to push more at, kind of a thing, if that makes sense. But I feel like Bays feels, how, I don't know if this is true for everybody else, but there is a kind of in my mind, a comedy writer in a movie is someone who doesn't talk unless they have a perfect zinger, and then they're not like babbling, if that makes sense. I'm a huge babbler, as you could tell. But Alex Bays is truly like, anytime he talks, I remember thinking like, that was the most concise way to say it. That was the funniest way to say it. Like, I feel like his brain it just operates very differently from mine. So I was always in awe. Yeah.
Were you initially on the monologue team? There were different teams, right, of writers? Is that correct?
Yeah. I was kind of just always on the monologue team. The writers were, I think, roughly split in half, and you can do other things. So sometimes monologue writers would write sketches, or sketch writers would, submit monologue jokes. But I think just to make sure there was enough material every night, people basically stuck to one primarily.
So one primarily, and then I was going to ask about a closer look. How was that put together? I know that there's a bunch of passes, correct? Does everyone just take a bunch of passes?
The closer look is you're going to have to interview Sal Gentile about this. That's like he's like also a genius who when I first joined, he was at the desk right next to mine. And I feel like the rest of the room was kind of goofing off a lot and like doing bits. And Sal was always like truly research.
Do you think having they would have a test audience that would come in? That doesn't happen, I don't think, anymore since the pandemic, but they'd have an audience come in Seth would come out and test the jokes and do a lot of jokes material. Everything wouldn't work necessarily. Do you think that helped? Was that an advantage? Could you, now they don't do that. I mean, I'm guessing hopefully the quality is the same. Do you think that was in fact helpful to have a test audience?
Yeah, I remember it being helpful, but I also truly trust that if they're like, we don't need to do it anymore, then they absolutely know what they're doing. But Yeah, I mostly just remember rehearsals being very fun because we all got to be in the studio together and see it out loud, hear it out loud, and see what maybe will make it into the final show.
Who are a few people that were guests on the show that you got to work with or go backstage to say hi to and take a photo with, if anybody that you were excited?
That's a good question. We largely did not bother the guests for photos. I think that was kind of nobody. It was not a spoken rule. Like, you were definitely welcome to, but I think no. We also didn't want to make any of the guests uncomfortable, so everybody was very respectful of that.
Sure.
I'm trying to think. I think, when Megan Rapinoe was on the show, all the women, we all went in bulk to meet her. And we were like, feels like she might also not mind meeting a bunch of women who are huge fans. So we were very excited by that. That was so fun. And then I was a huge fan of an author named Jenny Offill, and she had a book that just came out that I had just really loved. So I got to tell her that I loved her writing. But that one I was less nervous about. I feel like authors are less, attacked in public for by fans in the way that maybe actors are.
That's very cool. I think you might be the only person in comedy that, this is a good thing. Unfortunately, it was tragic, but that you got 2 concussions in 1 month, and that got you away from sports, and that got you into comedy. I mean, you started going to improv shows, you started doing improv, and that really launched everything. Do you think that is the catalyst that really got you into comedy?
That's a good question. Again, you're going so far back into my history. I'm so impressed. That was my freshman year of high school.
Yeah, you were doing soccer, taekwondo, and then you got 2 concussions in a month, and you were done. They were like, no more.
Yeah, I think, I really do think I would have found my way to comedy anyway, because it's not like I was going to become a professional soccer player or anything. But it did sort of leave a large gap in my extracurricular schedule. I was like, well, I've always really been interested in doing more improv, so, might as well do it now, kind of. But yeah, I don't know. High school feels like truly an eternity ago.
It was a long time ago. How did the Seth Meyers, that recurring What Does Karen Know segment come about? Did you pitch it? Did someone else pitch it?
I did not pitch that. That was Matt Goldich, who is a writer on the show, who is so funny and also a very good stand-up comic. I think he came up with it, and I can't remember if he told me about it before he pitched it, but they're basically were just genuine instances in the writer's room where someone would mention something and I didn't know, or I would mention something and they didn't know. And in both situations, either party would be very shocked at the lack of knowledge on the other side. So even when we were pitching it, even when he pitched it in the room to Seth and Shoemaker and stuff, and it was very funny, but I didn't think it would actually be on the show because it felt so internal and it felt so like only we care because we know each other. If people don't know me, why would they care what I know or don't know? So I was genuinely very surprised, but also, very grateful that it seemed to be of interest.
And it was unscripted. I mean, what was that anxiety level like? Was that just exciting, or is it a lot of pressure?
This is like all credit to Seth, truly, where I think if it were anyone aside from him, I would have been anxious out of my mind. But he is such a funny performer, but also such a supportive performer. He really makes the other person he's performing with shine, and you can tell that is his goal. And so because of that, before the segment, even if I was nervous, I remember always thinking oh, I'm in such good, capable hands. He's not going to make me look dumb. He's not going to let this not be funny. He's a funny person who's very generous. He's not going to try and, pull a fast one on me or anything, And so I felt very safe, even though I did not know what was going to happen.
When you would perform on the show sometimes, was that be something that you pitch or another writer? When you did Parasite, for example, when Parasite won an Oscar and you did a piece, was that something that you pitched and that you wrote, or was that somebody else?
This is a good question. I have a vague memory of thinking should I pitch something for Parasite? And then Mike Shoemaker reaching out, because I think I'd just been tweeting about the Oscars. I was kind of going crazy online, so excited. So I think Mike had seen my tweets and then message me like, if you wanted to, you can say these things on the show for the job that you work at, which was so kind. And I felt so grateful that he knew I kind of needed that invite. And once he said that, I felt very free to write it. And I remember another writer, Jenny Hagel, was also so helpful about it, because I think I also felt, I don't know why I felt this way, probably just like a personal thing, but I kind of self-conscious about like pitching me on the show. You know what I mean? It's you kind of have to have a little bit of like I'm so great, I can take up time on a show that's hosted by someone else. And so it was very helpful to have someone else be like, you can do it, and also here's another writer who's going to help you. And it was very, very sweet.
I talked to one of the writers once on the show, and they were telling
me. Who'd you talk to?
I talked to Amber Ruffin a long time ago, and she's very, very nice. When
she's
she
best.
was writing for the show, she told me, and I never heard this on another TV show, that you could even just bring a premise to Seth, or just like beats, and not have the thing completed. And his skill set, he could just do it and kind of write it. But sometimes that would happen. Did that happen with a lot, or was that just once in a while? Or would you hand in finished pieces? That's what Amber told me.
No, that's such a good point. I mean, I think one of the biggest perks of having the host having him be the host is that he's such a good writer, and he was the head writer at SNL.
Absolutely.
And so,
he has the skill set to take something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, anytime you came with a sketch premise, or like a sketch that you thought was finished, and he's like, actually, it could be ordered this way, or here's a joke. And it was genuinely always very, very helpful. And I think because he came from that background as opposed to a purely performance background, there was an intent of him being like it didn't feel egotistical, I guess. It wasn't like, what is something that could make Seth look amazing? It is, what is something that is the funniest possible thing that we could do on the show? So yeah. Amber's the best. She's so great.
Yeah, it's just really nice. Was there a piece on Late Night? What is a piece that you wish you came up with, that you were kind of envious that got on? You're like, I wish I would have thought of that. That's so clever.
This is such a good question. I wish I had thought of things too. I haven't worked for Late Night in like 2 years.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I feel like anything, there were so many great, funny, weird things. Anything that like John Lutz was in,
yeah, he's a funny man.
He's so funny, and he's so funny in a very, he makes it look so easy to, just casually do a funny look or whatever. So anytime he did that, I was always like, oh, that's so cool. You're so talented. I felt that way about truly everybody, though. I like Amber too, for sure.
Sure. Were you, to your knowledge, were you the only Seth writer that went to Harvard? I can't think of anybody else that did that. That's very common on comedy shows.
Yeah, I don't know. Nobody really thought about what college we went to. But maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. Because you did comedy there. I know that you were in an improv group, the Immediate Gratification Players, and you
wow, this is such a
writing.
Deep. Yeah.
Oh, I tried, but when you were doing improv, when you were in college, you were taking it seriously. You're like this because you were a history major, but at the same time, your ambition was comedy. Is that what you kind of thought where you'd be?
I think so. I think I always knew I really liked it, but I really remember going to college with trying to keep a very open mind of what I wanted to do, because so many people had told me, like, the thing you want to do will change so many times in college, and that's a good thing. So just to kind of go with the flow. So I don't know if I had tunnel vision, but it did sort of, especially by the time I graduated, become increasingly clear that this is the thing I wanted to give my best and first shot at. Yeah.
What was it like writing remotely you were in Korea, correct? And you were still writing for Seth, correct?
Back to Late Night. Yeah, it was good. It was interesting. So I was working for Late Night, and then in June of 2020, after COVID had already broken out, I flew to Korea because my grandma got very sick and thought I was only going to be there for like a couple weeks. And I think that's probably what I'd emailed Shoemaker saying like, hi, is it okay if I leave for like a week or two? Actually probably longer because of quarantine at the time. So whatever. I basically, all is to say, I only thought I was going to Korea for like a month maximum. And then ended up being there for over 2 years. And the really genuinely great thing that I'm so grateful for is that I got to keep working for Late Night throughout that whole time. So I never felt like there was no like struggle for work or like financially or like, oh no, what's happening to my career? Am I giving up my career by being with my family? And so it felt like such a blessing to be able to do that. And it was also at the same time such a weird headspace to be in where like there's an international pandemic going on. I'm living in South Korea. I'm surrounded by my family. I'm only speaking in Korean. And then at like, I don't remember the time difference anymore, but like at 1 or 2 in the morning every night, I would start writing monologue jokes about US politics in English. So it was like a weird mental, on top of COVID. So it was kind of crazy. But yeah, I remember that time in my life very fondly now.
When you worked in the 30 Rock building, would you go over to Saturday Night Live at all? Because the studio is right down the hall. Would you ever peek in much or not really?
No, not really. It is like they are close by, but it is like it is a workplace. And so it's still like you're still in your office and you're still working. You're not kind of, moving around to other offices. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just wondering, what was it like performing at Carnegie Hall?
It was really fun. It was surreal. That was for a different show. That was for a show called Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me. And that's truly such a fun radio show to get to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, when I got that invite from them, I was like, this is never going to happen again. I was working on a show in LA at the time. And so I texted my boss being like, hi, could I possibly leave work a day early? To do a show at Carnegie Hall. And I remember him being like, what? Yeah, go. Like, that's crazy.
Good excuse. It's such a prestigious, fun show. I was going to ask about when you went on Colbert's Late Show. Can you talk about that?
Yes. So that's when I was in college and I was an intern on the show and they were super great. That was such a fun show to intern for. Yeah. And I'd been a huge fan of the Colbert Report. And so just the idea of like getting to work in the same building as Stephen Colbert was like I was so starstruck. But yeah, everybody who was there was so kind and welcoming to all the interns. And yeah, I remember everybody was really like sweet, but specifically there's a writer there named Brian Stack who like went out of his way to memorize every intern's name.
He's famous for that. At Conan.
I know.
That was what he was famous for. And people will say, the nicest human being. I mean, Mike Brum is really nice.
I believe that. Yeah.
There's a lot of nice people over there. Adam Wager. I'm friends with a lot of people. But yeah, Stack has that reputation for being
he's
amazing.
so kind. But yeah, that was like a true dream summer.
Wow, it's so cool that you got to do that. What do you think of the current late night? Do you watch the shows? What do you think might be the future of late night if you had to guess?
Oh, I don't know. This is something I've talked about with my friends a bunch. I mean, I love late night as like an institution in a show, and I think it's so nice to have something that you can, it's reliably on at a certain time every night and kind of helps you digest the news of the day. Like it's for me, but also I'm obviously super biased. I hope it continues on. I hope we continue having different shows so that, there are different kind of voices and more people get to be guests on the shows and stuff. But I don't know. I feel like television is changing so fast and so quickly that anytime anybody gets any kind of job in it, I'm like, congratulations, that is a win.
If you could choose between performing and writing, is there some place that you lean either one of those, or do you just like to do both?
I do like to do both. I definitely lean towards writing. I think right now I've left Late Night a few years ago, and I'm now working primarily as like a scripted comedy writer. And so, yeah, it's the best. But I also, would love to perform more.
Did you get to meet Ted Danson when you wrote for him?
I did, yeah.
Nice man.
So cool, yeah.
I remember I had a day job at the Colbert Report, and he was one of the only guests. He'd be right before he did his interview. He's like, "I'm so nervous. Why am I nervous?" I'm like, "You're Ted Danson."
Sweet.
But yeah, he was a nice man. Karen, thank you so much for talking with us. This was fun.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening. Please subscribe so you never miss an episode. On Apple Podcasts, please rate it and leave a review. Be sure to go to LateNighter.com for all your late night TV news. And you can find my podcast at LateNighter.com/podcasts. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next Tuesday.